Wow, what a year it's been. Hey everyone, Red Rebel Jeff Jones here, and in this video I'm going to give a bit of a rundown of the past year. It's been an interesting year, I will say, and hopefully 2024 will be just as interesting. Now, for those of you who are long-term viewers of the channel, you may recognise this as something I used to do per month. Unfortunately, I didn't think it was getting enough traction really to continue doing it, so that's why I stopped it. I did do a yearly rundown of 2020, although that was taken down by YouTube. It's the only video that's been removed. The reasoning for it was that I said the widespread voter fraud it changed the results of the 2020 election, which I didn't say. I said, was there voter fraud? Yes. Is there evidence of that? Yes. Was it enough to change the election? I don't think so, and even today I don't think so. So that was a bit of an interesting chapter for the channel. But let's go through 2023 and kind of look back at some of the interesting moments. So, first up, it's a bit of a personal one, and that's the fact that I returned to YouTube. In May, I started making videos again. Now, I was basically preparing to restart the channel for a couple of months before that. Actually, since pretty much about last Christmas, actually, I started planning for it. I was gone for 19 months in total. In November 2021, the channel kind of petered out, and the reason being is I didn't have that much time when it comes to work and my personal life to actually continue doing the channel, and there was a lack of engagement with the channel, so I just kind of felt there wasn't really a point. I restarted because, first off, it gives me something to do. I've a good bit more time now, thankfully. But I think it's important to kind of have my thoughts out there. Even if people disagree with me, so what? But also it gives me a good reason to keep learning. I've learned a lot, especially over the last 2-3 years. So, next is a very interesting thing. I went to the free speech event, Ireland Uncensored. Now, this was put on by Gript Media and Free Speech Ireland. Now, the reason I went is because I wanted to learn more about the subject of free speech. It's not a topic I go into that often, and I really wanted to learn more about it. There were great speakers, like there was John McGurk and Ben Scallon of Gript Media, and I will say I've been watching their stuff more and more lately. There was Niall Boylan, one of my favourite radio presenters. There was Michael Schellenberger. Was really happy to see him because I've been following him for a while. There was Sean Keoghan. There was Kevin Sharkey. I was excited to see him. I was quite aware of him. I watched a couple of the interviews he's done. It was a really interesting thing to go to, and I'm glad I went because I learned not only did I learn a lot about free speech, I also learned a lot kind of about how the left really manipulates speech themselves. And I think it's something that really needs to be looked at. Because I think it's fair to say the left kind of manipulates speech, not only other people's speech but their own, to kind of put forward their own narrative, regardless of whether that narrative is actually makes any sense or not. So it was an interesting thing to learn about. Next up is a tragedy that took place in June. The implosion of the OceanGate Titan submarine. It imploded on its way down to see the wreck of the Titanic on the 18th of June, and all 5 people on board were killed. Now, what made this interesting for me was that there was a lot of people online that almost found the accident, they found the accident entertaining, they found it funny. I think the reason for that is because they have such a disdain for rich people, and it was pretty much rich people on that sub. And so they were treating it as something that was funny rather than the tragedy that it actually was. So I made a video about that, and it was something that was kind of frustrating to watch, I will say, because these are people. And to kind of respond that, oh well, you were asking for it, being rich people going down there, it's like, you really don't have that much compassion for people that are different from you, do you, if that's how you think? It was something that was kind of tragic to watch, really. Okay, so next one is, I would say, the big one, and that is the October 7th attack on Israel and Israel's counter-attack afterwards. Now, for those of you who don't know, if you've been living under a rock for the past couple of months, on October 7th, the terrorist group Hamas, along with other terrorist groups in the area, including Palestinian Islamic Jihad, the Popular Front for Liberation of Palestine, and several other groups, launched an unprecedented attack on Israel, which resulted in 1,300 people killed and about 250 taken hostage. And in part of that was some horrific acts. There was the widespread rape of women. There was the mutilation of dead bodies, including, I will describe the video, but I will be a bit vague on it. It included a Hamas terrorist trying to remove the head of a person with a shovel. If that's too graphic, I do apologise, but it was horrific, and I've seen a lot of the videos of what they were doing. There's been a lot of denialism from the anti-Israel side saying, oh, there's no proof of that. Hamas filmed themselves doing it. Just because you're too lazy to look for those videos because you're afraid of what they'll show, doesn't mean that they don't exist. Now, in November, 50 of the hostages were released during a 4-day ceasefire that was agreed upon between Israel and Hamas for the release of about 150 Palestinian prisoners. And there was even some that were trying to say, because Israel was releasing 3 Palestinian prisoners for every 1 Israeli hostage being freed, that they valued the Palestinians less. The anti-Israel angle is so often twisted. It's twisted in a way that doesn't make any sense. So that was a bewildering accusation against them, and actually doesn't make any sense. If they could get all those hostages back without releasing any Palestinian prisoners, they would. So it was one of those accusations that are really, you have to laugh at it, because it's like, are you really that stupid to think that? Like, think about that for more than a millisecond, and you'll understand why that doesn't make sense. Now, Israel has continued its counterattack and has vowed to continue that counterattack until Hamas is totally destroyed in Gaza. Now, there is a question about whether the counterattack is, well, a lot of people say, proportionate. Now, I think they're kind of misunderstanding international law there a bit. And when it comes to proportionality, they have to make the calculation, really, that would hitting a military target, if the collateral damage would be justified in taking out that military target. That's what proportionality means in international law. And Israel is actually doing that. Now, you could disagree with their assessment, but saying that Israel isn't making that assessment and that they're just trying to commit a genocide, it doesn't make any sense, because if they were just trying to commit a genocide, here's a question to ask. Why are they on the ground? If Israel wanted to commit a genocide of the Palestinians, of the people in Hamas, in the Gaza Strip, why are they on the ground? Why are there ground groups in the Gaza Strip? Why wouldn't they just use their Air Force and bomb the living daylights out of Gaza for a couple of days and completely wipe them out? So that accusation doesn't make sense. So next up is the murderer of Aisling Murphy was convicted. And I think this is a good victory for justice. On the 12th of January 2022, Joseph Puska murdered 23-year-old primary school teacher Aisling Murphy in a horrific attack. Now, in November, after a 3-week trial, he was convicted and was sentenced to life imprisonment. Now, in response to the killing, and this is something I would agree with actually, Helen McEntee, the Minister of Justice, proposed an anti-stalking bill which came into effect in October, and there is evidence that Puska stalked Aisling before killing her. And I will say this, I agree with that law. Like, stalking, now what do you mean by stalking? I think it has to be defined a bit better. It is a little vague in the legislation, but I think overall, I think it's a law I would agree with. And it came into effect in October. And one thing I think a lot of people don't actually realise is that kind of set the stage, because he was convicted in November, and it was the end of November when he was convicted in the start of early November, and then in late November the Dublin Riots started. And actually, that was another big story. We had, I'm going to mispronounce this name, Bushaka, I think, if I'm butchering that. He attacked a care assistant and a group of children. Now, previously I had reported that it was a school teacher. That was wrong. And I am going to correct that statement right now. I was wrong. She was a care assistant, not a teacher. In response to the attack, groups of protesters gathered and turned violent. Now, and actually before that, when he was disarmed, and this is another correction I'm going to make on my previous video, I highlighted the Brazilian delivery driver that intervened. It wasn't just him. There was actually 3 in total. There was 2 Irish guys and him that intervened. The only reason I kind of brought him up was that, like, I kind of it was quick thinking using his helmet, his bicycle. No, it was. I think it was a motorbike helmet he had, and I think like it was quick thinking of him to use that to actually engage the attacker. But also, I think I kind of found the whole GoFundMe to buy him a pint. I will say I found that a bit funny. So I think all three of those guys that intervened deserve a pint, at least. Now, when it came to the rioting afterwards, many in the political establishment and the mainstream media, as well as many in the NGO sector, have repeated their push for their hate speech bill. Now, and it's still bad law. It's still bad law. And well enough, this is despite them actually charging UFC fighter Conor McGregor for hate speech using an old law. So there's a law in place that they can use for this, and yet they're trying to implement this new one. Which really kind of demonstrates that this isn't something to tackle hate speech. It's just so they can get a ridiculous amount of power to shut down speech they don't like. And that was some of the points raised during the Ireland Uncensored free speech event, and their response to the Dublin Riots, I think, really shows that response, that belief that it's just about getting more power to silence political dissent is accurate. So I'm going to go through a bit of a quick fire bit now, because there was some other personal stuff, but I'm not going to go into too much detail about them. So first off, a highlight, I got promoted. At work. I am now a shift supervisor, which I'm actually kind of happy about. It's more money, a good bit more stress with the work phone, but yeah. You get calls a lot, and a lot of the calls, well, I wouldn't say a lot of them, some of them are kind of irrelevant to us, to what we do, so yeah, that's annoying, but overall, I'm happy with it, because I do like working there. I do like working at the airport. Low light, really big low light, I got a kidney stone removed. And I'll go into a little bit of detail on this. I have quite a bit of I have a high pain tolerance. When I'm in pain, it'll take a while for me to say anything. And this just shows you how painful a kidney stone is. They said it because I spoke up right away. And originally I just thought it was a Domino's pizza that didn't go down well. And I'm used to that. Domino's pizza never goes down well with me. I like the taste of them. They don't go down well with me. But then I got a bad pain. I was working with that kind of irritation in my stomach, in my gut. But it wasn't really pain, it was just a bit of discomfort. That night it started to get really, really painful. And so I just thought, we'll see. I spoke up. I went to my parents. I was like, there's a bad pain in my gut. When it comes to work tomorrow, I'll see how I am in the morning. If it's still bad in the morning, I'll just say I'm not going in. And it was still bad in the morning, so I went to the VHI Swift Care Clinic. They kind of disproved. Well, they didn't actually probably diagnose what I had, but they were able to say what it wasn't. There wasn't several different things, and we thought it was a kidney stone, so we were referred to the Mercy. We went straight over there to the emergency department, and it was confirmed it was a kidney stone, and it was a large one. I wasn't going to pass it, so I waited until the next day, until I got the surgery to remove it. I would say waking up after that anesthetic is not that fun. Because you're really disorientated. But yeah. And I've done a good bit of dietary changes to ensure it doesn't happen again. I'm not drinking as much Coke, which is a good thing. I knew that was giving me problems. Didn't think it was causing a problem like that, but it did. Another highlight was I reached 100 subscribers. And it was actually after that, my thoughts on the Dublin Riots video, that got, it's almost 2,000 views now. That's got. And I was not expecting that at all, so everyone who watched that video and interacted with it, thank you. It was great to see that much interaction, and if I get more interaction like that, I'm happy to make more videos like that. And I got some interaction on some of my men's issues videos as well. Particularly my video on where the good men have gone. So that was an interesting one. It's been an interesting year, 2023. Some highlights and lowlights, not just in my personal life, but in the world in general. It's fascinating to really look back at the year. I really really look at it from a different perspective, because when they say hindsight is 2020, it really is. And maybe I might, when it comes to doing the rundown, I might just restart up only a yearly thing. Maybe it might be an idea. I think reflection is a good part of kind of the new year, because yes, you're looking forward to a new year and a new kind of almost a new beginning in a way, but also looking back to see what you can learn from the last 12 months. I've learned a bit. I've learned a good bit from the last 12 months, and I hope I keep learning. That's the interesting part of life now. The lessons life gives you are really, the tests it gives you cannot be that fun. But that's how you grow. The challenges you face in life is how you grow. Like, I will say, like, differences from me a year ago to me now, I'm definitely a lot more disagreeable, and I think that comes from me at work as well. When I got the supervisor role, I've become a bit more disagreeable. Although a couple of friends of mine have actually said it's not that I'm becoming more disagreeable, I'm just, and I quote one friend, I'm less tolerant to bullshit than I used to be, which I think is quite accurate. But yeah, it's fascinating to really look back, and I've learned a lot more. And I'm really looking forward to see what I learn in the next year, because it's a really interesting thing. What did you guys think of 2023? Share your thoughts with me in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear them. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up button, and do not forget to subscribe to keep up with my latest videos. 2023 has been a very interesting year. I hope 2024 is just as interesting, if not more.